Ever wonder what happens to the banana peel you toss in the bin? It disappears. Truck comes, bin empties, problem solved. You never think about it again. Now imagine there is no truck, there is no bin, there is no away. That was every single human being on Earth for roughly the first 300,000 years of our existence. And here's the part that should genuinely mess with your head. The garbage they left behind is not the embarrassing footnote of ancient history. It is ancient history. Almost everything we know about people who lived before writing, what they ate, who they traded with, what diseases they carried, whether they loved their dogs, we know because we dug through their trash. Archaeology, when you strip away the fedoras and the whips, is mostly professional dumpster diving. Very slow, very expensive dumpster diving. So, let's actually answer the question. How did ancient humans handle their garbage? The honest answer is badly, then cleverly, then badly again. And the whole cycle repeats in a loop that has not stopped running to this day. Start at the beginning. Start with a group of hunter-gatherers, somewhere, anywhere, 100,000 years ago. Their waste management strategy was elegant in its simplicity. It was called walk away. And it worked. It genuinely worked. When you're a band of 25 people carrying everything you own, and you move camp every few weeks, garbage is not a problem. It's a rounding error. You eat the animal, you crack the bones for marrow, you drop the bones. You nap a stone tool, the flakes fall where they fall. Everything organic rots. Everything else is stone. And stone doesn't smell. By the time the pile got annoying, you were already 40 kilometers away, following the herds. The land absorbed it. Mobility was the sanitation system. But, and this is where it gets interesting, some of those groups stopped walking away, and a few of them started doing something strange. They started piling. Along the coasts of Denmark, Japan, Brazil, Florida, South Africa, archaeologists keep finding the same bizarre feature. Enormous mounds of shells. Not scattered, heaped, some of these shell middens are the size of small hills. Some stretch for hundreds of meters and run several meters deep. The Danes have a word for them that got adopted worldwide. K and MDDing. Kitchen mound. Kitchen midden. Think about the arithmetic for a second. To make a hill out of oyster shells, you need generations of people eating shellfish in the same place and putting the shells in the same spot on purpose. That's not an accident of laziness. That's a decision. Somebody decided the shells go there, and their children agreed, and their children's children agreed. That's the first waste management policy in human history. And it was so successful that the mound became part of the landscape. People buried their dead in these middens. They built houses on top of them. In some places, the trash heap became the highest, driest, most desirable real estate around because it was above the floodline. The garbage was the foundation. Literally, now here's where the whole story turns. And it turns hard. Agriculture. Somewhere around 10 to 12,000 years ago, humans start doing the single most consequential thing we've ever done. We stay put. We plant. We store. We build permanent houses out of mud brick. And permanent houses mean permanent people. And permanent people mean permanent garbage. And suddenly just walk away is no longer available as a strategy. Because you can't walk away from your own wheat field. Go look at Adelhike in what's now Turkey, 9,000 years old. Thousands of people packed into mud brick houses jammed so tightly together that there were no streets. None. You walked across the roofs and dropped into your home through a hole in the ceiling. And these people, this is not a joke, kept their garbage in dedicated middens in the gaps and abandoned structures between the houses. In their neighborhood, feet from where they slept. The archaeological layers there are a horror show and a treasure chest at the same time. Ash, bone, rotting plant matter. And the parasite eggs. We find intestinal parasite eggs in the waste of early farming settlements again and again. The biological signature of people, animals, and sewage living in intimate, unbroken contact. Because that's the real price of settling down. It wasn't just the backbreaking labor. It wasn't just the tooth decay from grain. It was that we invented the concept of a place where our own filth accumulates faster than the world can eat it. We invented the dump, and the dump invented a whole new relationship between humans and disease. Skeletons from early farming villages are frequently shorter and show more signs of stress and illness than the foragers who came before them. There are a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is that we were, for the first time, marinating in our own byproducts. So we started fighting back, and the fight produced some genuinely stunning engineering. Go to the Indus Valley, Mohenjo-Daro, Harappa, 4,500 years ago. These cities were laid out on grids, and running along those grid streets, covered by brick and stone slabs, were drains, municipal drains. Individual houses had bathing platforms and waste chutes that emptied into channels in the street, which flowed into larger channels, which carried waste out of the city. Many homes had access to their own well. This is a Bronze Age civilization. No steel, no cement as we know it, no combustion engine, building something that a huge fraction of the modern world still does not have. And nobody knows for certain who ordered it built. We can't read their writing. We have thousands of inscribed seals from the Indus, and we cannot decipher a single sentence. We know what their sewers looked like in exquisite detail, and we don't know the name of one single person who lived there. The trash outlived the story. Meanwhile, in Crete at Knossos, the Minoans were running water through terracotta pipes fitted together in tapered sections, tapered specifically so the water would speed up and flush out sediment rather than let it settle and clog. That is not a lucky accident. That is someone understanding fluid dynamics with their hands. And then Rome. Rome goes enormous. The Cloaca Maxima, the Great Sewer, starts as a drainage channel to dry out the swampy ground of the Forum, and eventually becomes a vaulted stone tunnel big enough to boat through, dumping the city's waste into the Tiber. Rome brought fresh water in by aqueduct and pushed foul water out by sewer, and it did this at a scale that would not be matched in Europe for well over 1,000 years. But, and I want you to sit with this, Roman sanitation was not primarily about germs. Nobody knew about germs. It was about smell, about flooding, about civic pride, about not living in a swamp. And Roman cities were still filthy. Chamber pots got emptied into the street from upstairs windows. Roman law had to explicitly address what happens when someone dumps something out a window and it hits a pedestrian. That law exists because it kept happening. The Romans also gave us one of the great garbage monuments of all time, Monte Testaccio in Rome. It's a hill. It's about 35 meters high, and it is made entirely of broken pottery, specifically amphorae, the big ceramic jars that carried olive oil into the city. Oil-soaked clay couldn't be reused or recycled, so the empire smashed the jars and stacked the pieces carefully in an organized dump for roughly 250 years. The estimates run to something like 53 million amphorae, a mountain of jars, because a city of 1 million people needed a truly obscene amount of olive oil, and nobody had invented a container that didn't become garbage the moment you emptied it. Does that sound like anyone you know? Then Rome falls. And here's the plot twist nobody expects. Waste management gets worse. Dramatically worse. The aqueducts break. The sewers silt up. Medieval European cities become notorious. Streets running with muck, butchers dumping offal in the road, rivers used as open sewers. Cities passed ordinances, hired rakers, fined people for dumping. The laws exist, again, because people kept dumping. And then the bill comes due. Filth attracts rats. Rats carry fleas. And in the 14th century, plague tears through Europe and kills a staggering share of the population. Sanitation is not the whole story of the Black Death. Not remotely, but the connection between how a city handles its waste and how many of its people survive stops being an abstraction. It becomes the loudest fact in the world. It still takes centuries to fully learn the lesson. It takes until the 1800s, when London's Thames gets so foul that the stench forces Parliament itself to consider abandoning its own building. And only then does the money appear to build a modern sewer system. Not when the poor were dying of cholera by the tens of thousands, when it started to smell bad in the room where the powerful people sat. That's the pattern. If you zoom all the way out, humans do not solve their garbage problem until the garbage physically arrives at the doorstep of whoever has the power to fix it. And now flip the whole thing over, because there's a gift buried in all this rot. Every miserable, stinking, disease-ridden midden is a data vault. Ancient trash preserves what nothing else does. Palaces get looted. Temples get rebuilt. Histories get rewritten by whoever won. But nobody lies in their garbage. Nobody carefully curates the shells they throw out. The dump is the only honest document a civilization produces. Charred seeds in a hearth's ash tell you what they farmed. Fish bones tell you which season they were there. Pottery shards tell you who they traded with, because clay carries a chemical fingerprint of the ground it came from. Animal bones with cut marks tell you how they butchered and which cuts were prized. Latrines and cesspits, the least glamorous excavation on Earth, hand over parasite eggs and pollen and seeds that reconstruct an entire diet, an entire disease burden, an entire life. In the 1970s, an archaeologist named William Rothye pointed all of this at the present. He started excavating modern landfills with actual archaeological method, the Garbage Project. And what he found was that people lie constantly about what they consume, they underreport the junk food, they underreport the alcohol, but the trash never lies. The trash tells you exactly who you are. He also found that the stuff we assume just melts away often doesn't. Deep in a compacted, oxygen-starved landfill, newspapers stay readable for decades. You can pull one out and read the date. So, how did ancient humans handle their trash? They walked away from it. Then they piled it up and buried their dead in it. Then they built cities and drowned in it. Then they engineered brilliant systems to carry it out of sight. And out of sight became out of mind. And out of mind became somebody else's problem. And somebody else's problem is exactly where we still are today. We didn't solve the garbage problem. We got very, very good at moving it. Rome moved it to a hill. London moved it downriver. We move it to a landfill, a barge, a container ship, another country. Because remember what we said at the start. There is no away. There never was. The Romans built a mountain out of it. And 10,000 years from now, when something comes to figure out who we were, it will not read our books, and it will not visit our monuments. It will dig through our trash, and it will know everything.